I'm Megan Chapman, 68 years old, and this is the story of how my only son tried to erase my entire existence with a check for $15,000. The moment Austin handed me that pathetic piece of paper, I saw 42 years of motherhood reduced to a number that wouldn't even cover a decent used car. "Mom, be reasonable," he said, straightening his $3,000 Armani suit while standing in my living room. "This house is worth $1.2 million now. You're getting old, and I need the equity for my investments." His girlfriend Monica stood beside him, her manicured hand on his shoulder, both of them looking at me like I was already gone. What they didn't know was that 3 days earlier, I'd already discovered the forged documents he'd used to transfer my house into his name. Before I share what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story truly resonates with you. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. Now, let me take you back to where this betrayal really began. 5 years ago, when my Harold passed away from a sudden heart attack, I thought I knew what loneliness meant. Our 4-bedroom colonial in Westfield, New Jersey, felt impossibly large without his morning coffee rituals and evening news commentary. But I adapted, the way women of my generation always do. I filled my days with garden roses that Harold had planted for our 40th anniversary, volunteered at the local library's literacy program, and hosted Sunday dinners that Austin increasingly found excuses to miss. "Sorry, Mom, big meeting Monday morning," he'd text, usually around the time I was setting his place at the table. "Rain check?" Those rain checks never came. I should have seen the signs earlier. Every visit, and they dwindled to maybe once a month, Austin would steer our conversations toward practical matters. "Mom, where do you keep the house deed?" he asked last Christmas, barely looking up from his phone. "Just want to make sure everything's organized, in case something happens." "Nothing's going to happen to me for a long while," I'd replied, passing him the green bean casserole he used to love as a child. He didn't touch it. "You're 70, Mom. We need to be realistic." 70. He couldn't even get my age right. But I'd smiled and changed the subject because that's what mothers do. We forgive the small wounds to preserve what's left of the relationship. I told myself he was stressed from work, that the financial industry was brutal, that he'd come around once things settled down. The last time he'd visited, 3 weeks ago, he'd brought forms. "Just insurance paperwork, Mom, standard stuff." I'd signed them without reading. After all, this was my son. The letter from Wells Fargo arrived on a Tuesday morning, mixed in with grocery store circulars and a water bill. "Congratulations on your recent real estate transaction," it began. I read it 3 times, certain I was misunderstanding something. "What real estate transaction?" My hands trembled slightly as I dialed Austin's number. He answered on the 4th ring, sounding irritated. "Mom, I'm in a meeting. What's wrong?" "I got a letter from the bank about some real estate transaction. Do you know anything about this?" There was a pause, just a beat too long. "It's probably a mistake. You know how these banks are, always mixing up accounts. Just throw it away." "But it has my name, our address." "Mom, I really have to go. It's nothing, trust me. System error. Happens all the time." The line went dead. "Trust me," he'd said. The words echoed as I stared at the letter. In 42 years of raising him, Austin had never once told me to throw away financial documents. Harold had been meticulous about record-keeping, and he'd taught us both to be the same way. I put on my coat and drove to the bank. The young woman at the customer service desk pulled up my account with a bright smile. "Mrs. Chapman? Yes, I see the transaction here. The property at 47 Maple Street was transferred 2 weeks ago. Congratulations on the sale." "Sale?" My voice came out as a whisper. "I didn't sell anything." Her smile faltered. "But it shows here that you signed the documents. Look, here's your signature." She turned the monitor toward me. There it was, my name, but not my handwriting. Close, but not quite. The M was too sharp, the N in Chapman too narrow. Someone had forged my signature, and I knew exactly who. The bank manager, Mr. Peterson, was a tall man with kind eyes who'd known Harold for 20 years. He sat across from me in his glass office, sliding document after document across his mahogany desk. Each page felt like another knife wound. Mrs. Chapman, according to our records, you sold the property to Austin Chapman for $1.2 million on October 15th. His voice was gentle, professional, but I could see the concern creeping into his expression. The closing was handled by Rivera and Associates. Everything appears to be properly notarized. Rivera. Monica's last name was Rivera. This signature, I pointed with a shaking finger, this isn't mine. I never signed these papers. I never agreed to sell my house, especially not to my own son. Mr. Peterson leaned forward, studying the documents more carefully. Are you saying you want to dispute this transaction? I'm saying this is fraud. The word hung in the air between us like a loaded gun. My son stole my house. He made copies of everything, 17 pages of lies with my forged signature on every one. The sale price was listed clearly, $1,200,000. The buyer, Austin Chapman. The seller, Megan Chapman. The notary seal, Monica Rivera. Commission, number 447829. Mrs. Chapman, Mr. Peterson said quietly, if what you're saying is true, this is a serious crime. You'll need to contact the police. Police? My son. The two concepts couldn't exist in the same thought, yet here they were. I drove home in a daze, the folder of evidence heavy on the passenger seat. As I pulled into my driveway, was it even my driveway anymore? I saw Austin's Tesla parked by the garage. He was standing on my porch, Monica beside him, both of them looking like they'd been waiting. "Hi, Mom," Austin called out cheerfully, as if he hadn't just stolen everything my husband had left me. "We need to talk about your living arrangements." They followed me into my kitchen that apparently wasn't mine anymore. Austin sat at the same chair where he'd eaten thousands of meals I'd cooked for him, while Monica stood behind him like a sentinel in her designer heels. "Mom, don't look so upset," Austin began, pulling out his checkbook with the casual air of someone paying a restaurant bill. "This is for your own good. You're getting older, this house is too big for you to maintain, and frankly, you don't need all this space." "You sold my house." The words came out flat, emotionless. I was past shock now, entering something colder. "Technically, I transferred it to myself. It's all in the family." He wrote out the check with flourishing strokes. $15,000 should be more than enough to get you set up in a nice senior community. There's a place in Trenton that has excellent reviews. Trenton, 60 miles away from everyone and everything I knew. You forged my signature. Austin's pen paused for just a moment before he tore the check from the book. "You signed those insurance papers, remember?" "You probably just forgot. You've been forgetting a lot lately, Mom." I hadn't forgotten anything, and we both knew it. Monica finally spoke, her voice syrupy sweet. "Mrs. Chapman, this really is what's best. Austin's trying to help you." "Help me?" I looked at my son, searching for any trace of the boy who used to cry when he accidentally stepped on ants. "You stole my home, the home your father worked his entire life to pay off, the home where you took your first steps." Austin slid the check across the table. "You have 72 hours to make arrangements. The new ownership papers are already filed. If you're not out by Friday, I'll have to begin eviction proceedings." He stood up, straightening his suit. "I'm doing this out of love, Mom. Someday you'll understand." They left me sitting there, staring at a check for $15,000, the price my son had put on my entire life. I didn't cry. Not one tear. Instead, I sat in Harold's old leather chair in the study, surrounded by the photo albums Austin hadn't bothered to consider valuable. There was his kindergarten graduation, his Little League championship, his high school valedictorian speech. In every picture, I was there in the background, the invisible foundation of his success. Harold's voice echoed in my memory from one of our last conversations. "Meg, promise me something. If anyone ever tries to take advantage of you after I'm gone, you fight back. You're stronger than you know." He'd been worried about scammers, about strangers who prey on widows. He never imagined the threat would come from inside our own family. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts to a number I hadn't used in years. Stern and Associates, Harold's old law firm. Then I looked at the time, 4:47 p.m. The banks were closed, but tomorrow they'd open at 9. Austin thought he knew everything about his mother, the quiet woman who'd balanced his father's books for 30 years, the careful accountant who'd turned Harold's modest salary into a comfortable retirement, the grieving widow living on Social Security and memories. But Austin didn't know about Chapco Industries. He didn't know about the 12 car wash locations across 3 states that I'd built from a single failed franchise Harold had bought as an investment just before he died. He didn't know about the holding company registered in Delaware or the $8 million in assets I'd accumulated while he was too busy to visit his forgetful old mother. Tomorrow my son would learn that there are 2 things you should never underestimate: a mother's love and a mother's fury when that love is betrayed. I folded the $15,000 check and placed it carefully in my purse. Evidence. Austin had just made the biggest mistake of his life. 10 years ago, just 6 months after Harold's death, I'd stood in the ruins of what was supposed to be my financial security. Harold had invested our entire retirement savings, $300,000, into a car wash franchise called Sparkle and Shine. 2 weeks before his heart attack, the parent company had declared bankruptcy. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Chapman," the bankruptcy lawyer had said. "You'll be lucky to recover 10 cents on the dollar." But I didn't want 10 cents on the dollar. I wanted justice, so I did what any good accountant would do. I studied every document, every contract, every loophole, and I found something beautiful. The franchise agreement was void, but the real estate leases Harold had signed were still valid. 20-year leases on 12 prime locations, all at 2014 prices. While Austin was building his career in Manhattan, thinking his mother was living off Social Security and Harold's modest life insurance, I was rebuilding an empire from ashes. I hired local managers, negotiated with suppliers, and most importantly, I kept my mouth shut. The holding company, Chapco Industries, was registered in Delaware with a law firm as the listed agent. My name appeared nowhere on the public documents. Within 3 years, I'd turned those 12 locations into the highest-rated car wash chain in the tri-state area. We specialized in luxury detailing, corporate fleet accounts, and, ironically enough, services for high-end dealerships. Austin's own Tesla dealership used our Westfield location, though he'd never bothered to ask who owned it. Last year alone, Chapco Industries netted $2.3 million in profit. The company was valued at $8 million, possibly more if I ever decided to sell, which I wouldn't. I'd kept it secret for one simple reason. I wanted to know if my son would love me without money, if he'd visit his mother just to see her smile, not her bank statement, if he'd care for me in my old age because I was his mother, not his meal ticket. Now I had my answer. I pulled out my laptop and logged into the Chapco corporate account. Everything was there. Every transaction, every contract, every proof that Austin Chapman had just tried to rob a millionaire 8 times over, and that millionaire was his own mother. Tomorrow, the hunter would become the hunted. Harold Stern answered on the second ring, his voice still sharp at 71. "Megan, my God, it's been too long. How are you?" "Harold, I need your help. Austin has done something terrible." The warmth drained from his voice. "Tell me everything." 20 minutes later, I'd laid out the entire story. The silence on the other end stretched so long I thought we'd been disconnected. "That little bastard," Harold finally said, and I'd never heard him curse in 40 years of friendship. "Pardon my language, Megan, but I helped change that boy's diapers. I taught him to ride a bike, and he does this? Can you still practice law?" "My license is active, and more importantly, I'm angry. But Megan, we'll need an investigator, someone who can dig into the technical details, verify the forgery, trace the money trail." "Do you know someone?" "Rebecca Smith, former FBI, specialized in financial crimes. She's brilliant, discreet, and she absolutely hates people who prey on the elderly." He paused. "No offense." "None taken. I am elderly, and I was preyed upon. By my own son." Harold gave me Rebecca's number. "Megan, I have to ask, do you have resources for this? Legal battles can be expensive." I smiled for the first time in days. "Harold, remember that failed car wash investment? That disaster? Of course. It wasn't a disaster. It was a seed, and it grew into something Austin never bothered to learn about because he was too busy assuming his mother was a helpless old woman." Harold laughed, a sharp, delighted bark. "Oh, this is going to be beautiful. When do we start?" "Tomorrow morning. And Harold, thank you." "Don't thank me yet, Megan. Thank me when that boy is wearing handcuffs." Rebecca Smith didn't look like former FBI. She looked like a soccer mom, blonde ponytail, yoga pants, driving a minivan, which, she explained as she set up her laptop in my dining room, was exactly the point. "People tell soccer moms everything," she said, fingers flying across the keyboard. "Now, let's see what your son and his girlfriend have been up to." It took her less than an hour to crack Austin's email. "Your son uses the same password for everything," she muttered. "His birthday plus the word money. Real sophisticated." What she found made my stomach turn. The emails between Austin and Monica went back 6 months. They'd planned every detail: which documents to forge, how to get me to sign similar papers to use as signature samples, even discussions about putting something in my tea to make me more cooperative during the signing. "Jesus Christ," Rebecca breathed, screenshotting everything. "Sorry, Mrs. Chapman, but this is conspiracy to commit elder abuse on top of the fraud." One email from Monica made my blood run cold. "She's old and trusts you completely. She'll never even check. And even if she does, who's going to believe her over her successful son? We can say she's showing signs of dementia." Austin's response? "You're right. After we get the house, we can probably get power of attorney too. Mom's sitting on more money than she lets on." He knew. Somehow, he'd suspected I had money, though clearly not how much. "Mrs. Chapman," Rebecca said quietly, "this is bigger than just the house. They were planning to take everything from you, piece by piece." "Can we prove it? In court?" Rebecca smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "Oh, we can prove it. I've already backed up everything to 3 separate secure servers. The metadata is intact. The email headers are verified. This is admissible evidence." She pulled out a business card. "My forensic accountant partner. We're going to trace every penny your son has touched. By the time we're done, his financial life will be an open book." The hunt had officially begun. Rebecca's forensic accountant was a quiet man named David, who wore thick glasses and spoke in numbers. What he found in Austin's financial records made everything else look like child's play. "Your son owes $800,000, David said, spreading printed bank statements across my dining room table like tarot cards revealing a terrible future. Online gambling primarily, poker sites, sports betting, cryptocurrency gambling platforms. Each statement told the same story: deposits from his salary, massive transfers to offshore betting sites, desperate loans from increasingly dangerous sources. "This one," David pointed to a transaction from last month, "is from a hard money lender, the kind that doesn't accept bankruptcy as an answer. He put up his condo as collateral and lost that too." Monica's financial records were cleaner but equally revealing. "She's been promised $200,000 when the house sells," Rebecca added. "There's a contract here, signed by both of them. She gets her cut for providing the notary seal and keeping quiet." I stared at the numbers, trying to reconcile this desperate gambler with the boy who'd saved every penny of his allowance to buy his first computer. "There's more," David said gently. "He's been fired from 3 firms in the last 2 years. His current employer has him on final warning. The only reason he still has a license is because the gambling debts aren't public yet." "Yet?" "His creditors are getting impatient. Based on these communications, he has maybe 2 weeks before they go public with the debts. Once that happens, he loses his financial license permanently." So that's why the 72-hour deadline. Austin wasn't just stealing from me. He was racing against time, trying to grab what he could before his whole world collapsed. He'd gambled away his future, and now he was betting his mother would be too weak to fight back. He'd bet wrong. "Wait," I said suddenly, remembering something. "I have cameras." Rebecca looked up from her laptop. "Security cameras?" "Hidden ones. Harold installed them 3 years ago after a series of break-ins in the neighborhood. He was paranoid about someone taking advantage of me." I almost laughed at the irony. "They're motion-activated, saved to the cloud for 12 months. "Show me." I pulled up the app on my phone, fingers trembling with anticipation. The cameras were disguised as smoke detectors, one in the living room, one in the kitchen, one in Harold's study. If Austin and Monica had discussed their plans in my house... There, I pointed at a date from 3 weeks ago. That's when Austin brought the insurance papers. We watched my son enter the study with Monica. The audio was crystal clear. "Remember," Monica said, "get her to sign at least 3 documents. We need multiple signature samples for the forensic guy." "She won't suspect anything," Austin replied, shuffling papers. "Mom's always trusted me. It's almost sad how easy this is." Almost sad. My own son. I scrolled back further to a visit from 2 months ago. Austin was in my kitchen, on the phone, pacing. "I need that money, Marcus. I can get it. My mother's house is worth over $1 million. Yes, I know she has to be dead or incapacitated to inherit, but there are other ways. Trust me, she'll never see it coming." Rebecca was taking notes furiously. "Mrs. Chapman, this is gold. We have him discussing the forgery, admitting to the conspiracy, even suggesting he'd considered waiting for you to die." "There's more," I said, my voice hollow. "Check last Sunday." The timestamp showed 2:47 a.m. Austin and Monica in my living room while I slept upstairs. They'd used the spare key I'd given him for emergencies. They were practicing my signature. The most damning video was from just 5 days ago, the night before Austin had presented me with the check. He and Monica had come over while I was at my book club, thinking the house was empty. But I'd come home early with a headache and gone straight to bed, never knowing they were downstairs. The camera captured everything in high definition. "What if she refuses to leave?" Monica asked, sitting at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd taught Austin to write his name.
"She won't have a choice. The deed's already transferred. If she tries to fight it, we'll have Dr. Kellerman declare her mentally incompetent. He owes me from that insider trading tip I gave him."
Monica laughed. "You've really thought of everything." "I had to. The creditors are breathing down my neck. Marcus said if I don't pay by the end of the month, they'll go after my kneecaps first, then public humiliation. My career would be over." "What about after, when she's in the nursing home?" Austin's response chilled me to the bone. "Once she's there, we get power of attorney. I know she's got money hidden somewhere. She was always too careful with Dad's finances to be this broke. We'll find it." "And if she fights the power of attorney?" "She's old, Monica. Things happen to old people. Falls, medication mix-ups. Eventually she'll either comply or—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Rebecca paused the video, her face pale. "Mrs. Chapman, this goes beyond fraud. They're discussing potential elder abuse, coercion, even— I don't want to say it." "Murder," I said flatly. "My son was considering murdering me for money." "We need to take this to the police, now." "No," I said firmly. "First, we're going to the family reunion. Austin needs to be exposed for what he is, in front of everyone who ever thought he was the golden child, then the police." Rebecca nodded slowly. "The nuclear option." "Exactly." Harold's home office looked like a war room. Legal documents covered every surface, color-coded and tagged with sticky notes. Rebecca had created a digital evidence folder with backup copies stored in 3 different cloud services. "The criminal case is airtight," Harold said, adjusting his reading glasses. "Fraud, forgery, conspiracy to commit elder abuse, criminal impersonation. Austin's looking at 5 to 10 years minimum." "And Monica?" "She'll lose her notary license immediately, criminal charges for her role in the forgery. She's looking at 2 to 5 years, possibly deportation if she's not a citizen." Rebecca pulled up another document on her laptop. "I've also found something interesting. Monica Rivera isn't even licensed to notarize in New Jersey. Her license is from New York, and it expired 6 months ago." Another nail in the coffin. "What about the house?" I asked. "The transfer is completely void. Fraudulent documents mean the sale never legally happened. You'll get your house back plus damages." "How much in damages?" Harold smiled. "Given the emotional distress, the attempted elder abuse, and the conspiracy, I'd say minimum $1.8 million, possibly more if we pursue punitive damages." "I don't want his money," I said. "I want justice." "You'll get both," Rebecca assured me. "His assets will be frozen the moment he's arrested. Any money he has will go to restitution." Harold pulled out one final document. "Megan, I need you to sign this. It's a power of attorney for me to act on your behalf, but only for this case. It's ironclad. Even I can't access your finances without your explicit permission for each transaction." I signed it without hesitation. Unlike my son, Harold had earned my trust over decades. "When's the family reunion?" Rebecca asked. "This Sunday, 3 days away." Harold's smile was sharp. "Perfect. Just enough time to prepare the presentation." The doorbell rang at 9 p.m. on Thursday, 2 days before the reunion. I looked through the peephole to see Austin standing there with 2 large men I didn't recognize. My hand moved instinctively to my phone, already recording. I opened the door, but kept the chain on. "Austin, it's late." "Open the door, Mom. We need to discuss your moving arrangements." The 2 men behind him shifted, their presence clearly meant to intimidate. One had a tattoo creeping up his neck. The other cracked his knuckles audibly. "These are my associates," Austin said smoothly. "They're here to help you pack." "I don't need help packing." "Mom," his voice dropped, becoming harder. "Open the door." I unlatched the chain, letting them in. The camera in the living room would capture everything. The 2 men immediately began surveying my house, picking up objects, examining paintings. "Nice stuff," one muttered. "Worth something." "Mom, you need to be out by tomorrow night," Austin said, pulling out a folder. "I found you a lovely room at Sunset Manor in Trenton. 1 bedroom, assisted living. They're expecting you Saturday morning." "And if I refuse?" Austin stepped closer, and for the first time in his life, I felt afraid of my own son. "You're not refusing. These gentlemen will be back tomorrow with a moving truck. Anything you haven't packed will be donated or thrown away." One of the men picked up a photo of Harold and me on our wedding day. "This worth anything?" "Put that down," I said sharply. He laughed and set it down carelessly, the frame cracking against the table. 24 hours, Mom," Austin said, heading for the door. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. You know what's best for everyone." As they left, the tattooed man looked back. "Nice meeting you, Mrs. Chapman. See you tomorrow." The threat was clear. I waited until their car pulled away, then called Rebecca. "Did the cameras get all that?" "Every second," she confirmed. "He just added witness intimidation and criminal threatening to his charges. Those men are probably the creditors he owes money to." "Good," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. "Let them come tomorrow. They'll find an empty house." Friday morning, I sent out the email to all 47 members of the Chapman family. "Dear family, as you know, this Sunday marks what would have been Mom and Dad Chapman's 70th wedding anniversary. I'd like to host a celebration of their love at my home at 2 p.m. I have some important family news to share. Love, Megan." Austin replied within minutes. "Great idea, Mom. Monica and I will definitely be there. Can't wait to share our good news with everyone." His good news. He was planning to announce that he'd helped me transition to senior living. I spent Friday afternoon at Rebecca's office, far from my home where Austin's thugs would find an empty house. Let them wonder where the old lady had gone. Rebecca had arranged for a security company to patrol my property, recording any trespassers. "They showed up at noon," Rebecca reported, showing me footage from my doorbell camera. "Knocked for 10 minutes, then left." Austin looked furious. He called me 15 times. I didn't answer. Finally, a text. "Mom, where are you? The movers are here." I responded simply, "Running errands. See you Sunday at the reunion." "This isn't a game. You need to be out of that house." Looking forward to seeing the whole family. I'm sure they'll be interested in all the changes happening. There was a long pause before his next text. "What changes?" "You'll see on Sunday. Oh, and I'm preparing a presentation. You know how I love my PowerPoints." No response. Harold called that evening. "Everything's ready. I've got 3 copies of all documents, and Rebecca will be there as backup. Her husband's a cop. He'll be on standby outside." "Thank you, Harold." "Megan, are you sure you want to do it this way, publicly?" I thought of Austin's smirk as he handed me that $15,000 check. "Yes. He needs to be exposed for what he is." Family can be our greatest source of comfort or our deepest source of betrayal. When someone you raised from birth, someone you sacrificed everything for, turns against you, the pain cuts deeper than any stranger's cruelty ever could. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Your support helps me share these important stories. Now, let's see what happens when a mother's love transforms into a mother's justice. Sunday arrived gray and drizzling, fitting weather for what was about to unfold. I'd spent the morning arranging chairs in the living room, setting up the projector Harold had brought, and preparing platters of Harold's favorite foods, a deliberate reminder of the man whose memory Austin had dishonored. The family began arriving at 1:30. My sister-in-law Dorothy came first, bringing her famous potato salad and a warm hug. "Megan, you look tired. Is everything all right?" "Everything will be clear soon," I promised. Austin's cousins arrived next, then Harold's brothers, their children, grandchildren. The house filled with the warmth of family, children running through halls where Austin had once played. Austin and Monica arrived at 2:15, fashionably late as always. He wore another expensive suit. She clutched a designer purse that probably cost more than the check he'd given me. They moved through the room like royalty, Austin shaking hands, Monica air-kissing relatives she'd met twice. "Where's your suitcase, Mom?" Austin asked quietly when he reached me. "I thought you'd be packed by now." "Oh, I am," I said. "I'm fully prepared." Harold and Rebecca had arrived separately, blending into the crowd. Harold was chatting with my brother-in-law about golf. Rebecca was by the window, appearing to admire my garden while actually keeping an eye on the door. At 2:30, I stood and clinked a spoon against my glass. "Everyone, thank you for coming. As you know, today would have been Mom and Dad Chapman's 70th anniversary, but I also have some family business to discuss." Austin stepped forward quickly. "Actually, I'd like to go first. Monica and I have some wonderful news about Mom's future." I smiled. "Of course, Austin. Please, share your news." He had no idea he was walking into a trap 42 years in the making. Austin moved to the center of the room with the confidence of a man who'd never faced consequences. Monica stood beside him, her hand on his arm, playing the supportive girlfriend perfectly. "Family," Austin began, his voice carrying that fake warmth he used with clients. "As you all know, Mom's been living alone in this big house since Dad passed. It's been 5 years and we've all been worried about her." Worried? He hadn't visited in 3 months before showing up to steal my home. "Monica and I have been working hard to find the best solution for Mom's golden years," he continued. "We found a wonderful assisted living facility in Trenton, Sunset Manor. It has excellent reviews, medical staff on site, and social activities to keep her engaged." My cousin Robert frowned. "Trenton? That's an hour away." "The facilities closer to home were too expensive," Austin said smoothly. "We want Mom's money to last. My money that he'd stolen." "When is this happening?" Dorothy asked, looking concerned. "Well, that's the other news," Austin said, pulling out his phone to show photos of Sunset Manor. "Mom's already agreed to move this week. In fact, she's been packing." "I have?" I said mildly. Austin's eye twitched, the same tell he'd had since childhood when lying. "Of course, Mom. We discussed it. You signed the papers." "What papers?" "The papers transferring the house, remember? So we can use the equity for your care." The room went quiet. Everyone knew how much this house meant to me. "How much equity?" Harold asked from the back, playing his part perfectly. Austin hesitated. "The house appraised at $1.2 million. Gasps rippled through the room. "And how much is going toward Megan's care?" Harold pressed. "Well, after expenses and fees..." "How much, Austin?" $15,000. The silence was deafening. Dorothy stood up slowly. "Austin Chapman, are you telling us you sold your mother's house for over $1 million and gave her $15,000? "It's complicated." "No," I said, standing up. "It's really not. May I?" I walked to the projector with the steady gait of someone who'd been preparing for this moment. The laptop was already connected, the presentation queued up. 47 pairs of eyes followed me. "Austin's right about one thing," I began, clicking to the first slide. "He did transfer my house. Here's the contract." The forged signature appeared on screen, magnified for everyone to see. "But there's something interesting about this signature." Click. The next slide showed my real signature from 10 different documents. Can anyone spot the difference? "The M is wrong," called out Austin's own sister Sarah. "And the loop in the G." "Exactly, because I never signed this." Click. "This is a forensic handwriting analysis, confirming the signature is forged." Austin stood up. "Mom, you're confused." "Sit down, Austin." My voice carried an authority I'd never used with him before. He sat. Click. "This is Monica Rivera's notary stamp on the fraudulent document. Except Monica's notary license expired 6 months ago, and she's not even licensed in New Jersey." Monica tried to move toward the door. Rebecca stepped casually into her path. Click. "These are emails between Austin and Monica from 6 months ago, planning exactly how to steal my house." I read one aloud. "The old lady trusts you completely. She'll never check, and even if she does, who'll believe her over her successful son?" My sister-in-law Dorothy stood up, her face red with rage. "Austin, you didn't." Click. "Here's Austin practicing my signature." The video played on screen. The room watched in horrified silence as my son carefully traced my name over and over while Monica coached him. "Make the M softer. Old people have shaky hands." Austin's face had gone from red to white. "Those videos were obtained illegally." "From my own security cameras in my own home?" I said. "I don't think so." Click. "And here's why Austin needed the money so desperately." The gambling debts appeared on screen. $800,000 in online poker, sports betting, cryptocurrency gambling, the threats from creditors, the 3 jobs lost. "My God," someone whispered. "But wait," I said. "There's more." The next slide showed Austin and Monica in my kitchen at 2 a.m., thinking I was asleep upstairs. "What if she refuses to leave?" Monica's voice filled the room through the laptop speakers. "She won't have a choice," Austin replied on screen. "If she tries to fight it, we'll have Dr. Kellerman declare her mentally incompetent." I paused the video. Dr. Kellerman, for those who don't know, lost his license last month for insider trading. Austin was his source. Click. The next video started. "Once she's in the nursing home," Austin was saying, "we get power of attorney. I know she's got money hidden somewhere." "And if she fights?" "She's old, Monica. Things happen to old people. Falls, medication mix-ups." The room erupted. Austin's uncle stood up, fists clenched. "You threatened your mother?" "It's not what it sounds like." Click. Thursday night, Austin brought 2 men to my house. The security footage played. Everyone watched as the tattooed men intimidated me, picked up Harold's photo, cracked the frame. Austin standing there, allowing it. 24 hours, Mom," his recorded voice said. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." "Those men," I said calmly, "are Marcus Volkoff's enforcers. Austin owes Marcus $800,000 from illegal gambling." Robert, the retired cop, pulled out his phone. "I'm calling this in now." "Wait," I said. "I'm not done." Click. "This is Chapco Industries. It's a company I've owned for 10 years. 12 car wash locations, $8 million in assets." The room went completely silent. Austin thought he was stealing from a poor widow living on Social Security. He thought I needed that $15,000 to survive. I looked directly at my son. "You never bothered to know who I really was. You only saw what you wanted to see, a weak old woman you could exploit." Sarah was crying. Dorothy had her hand over her mouth. The children had been ushered outside by their parents. "Austin," I said, "you and Monica committed fraud, forgery, elder abuse, conspiracy, and attempted grand larceny. You stole from your mother. You threatened me. You planned to have me declared incompetent." I clicked to the final slide, a photo of Harold and me on our wedding day. "Your father would be ashamed." Austin broke. "Mom, please, I can explain." The doorbell rang. Rebecca opened it. 4 police officers walked in. Sometimes the people we trust most become the ones who hurt us deepest. But justice, real justice, doesn't care about blood relations or family ties. It cares about truth. If you believe that everyone, regardless of age, deserves dignity and respect, please leave a comment sharing your thoughts. And remember to subscribe for more stories of courage in the face of betrayal. Now, Let's see how this story of a mother's strength concludes. Austin jumped to his feet, pointing at Monica. It was her idea. She manipulated me. She said her cousin could forge anything, that no one would ever know. Monica's mask finally cracked. Are you kidding me? You came to me. You said your mother was loaded, that she was too old to need the money anyway. You're the one who notarized it, because you promised me $200,000. They turned on each other like the rats they were, each scrambling to throw the other under the bus, while 47 members of the Chapman family watched in disgust. Mr. Chapman, Ms. Rivera, the lead officer said, you're under arrest for fraud, forgery, and conspiracy to commit elder abuse. You can't arrest me, Austin shouted. I'm her son. Family doesn't do this to family. You're right, I said quietly. Family doesn't do this to family. You did this to me. As the officers approached with handcuffs, Austin made one last desperate plea. Mom, please, I'm in trouble. Marcus will kill me if I don't pay him. I'm your son. You were my son, I corrected. My son died the moment he decided to steal from his mother. The metallic click of handcuffs echoed through the room. Monica was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks as an officer read them their Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Austin's cousin Tom stepped forward. Aunt Megan, I'm so sorry. We should have visited more, should have checked on you. This isn't your fault, I assured him. Austin made his choices. As they led Austin past me, he stopped. I hope you're happy, Mom. You've ruined my life. No, Austin. You ruined your own life the day you decided your mother's love was worth less than money you didn't earn. The police cars pulled away, taking my only child to face justice for his crimes. The lead detective, a woman named Detective Martinez, stayed behind to take additional statements. She sat with me at the kitchen table where Austin had slid that insulting check just days ago. Mrs. Chapman, the evidence your legal team has compiled is comprehensive. With the videos, the emails, and the forensic analysis, this is one of the strongest elder abuse cases I've seen. What happens now? They'll be processed, arraigned probably Monday morning. Given the evidence and the amount involved, bail will be substantial. The DA will likely charge them with multiple felonies. Harold sat beside me, his legal mind already working. We'll be pursuing civil charges as well. Full restitution plus damages. Good, Detective Martinez said. Too many seniors don't fight back. They're embarrassed or they protect their families. You're brave, Mrs. Chapman. I'm not brave, I said. I'm just angry. She smiled. Sometimes they're the same thing. After she left, the family slowly dispersed. Each relative hugged me, whispered support, promised to visit more. Sarah, Austin's sister, was the last to leave. Aunt Megan, I'm so ashamed. My own brother. You're not responsible for his actions. I knew he had problems, the gambling, the job losses, but I never thought he'd do this to you. She pulled out her phone. I'm blocking him, on everything. He's dead to me. Don't do that in anger, I said. Do it if it's what you need for your own peace. It is, she said firmly. Anyone who could do this to their mother isn't someone I want in my life. After everyone left, I stood in my empty house. My house, still mine, despite Austin's best efforts. Harold and Rebecca had stayed to help clean up. You did it, Megan, Harold said. You stood up to him. The hard part's just beginning, I replied. The trial, the family fallout. But you're free, Rebecca added. That's what matters. Within hours, the Chapman family WhatsApp group exploded with messages. I watched them roll in, each one a testament to how thoroughly Austin had destroyed his own reputation. From Cousin Robert, I've been a cop for 20 years, and I've never been more disgusted. Austin is no longer welcome at any family gathering I host. From Dorothy, Megan, we're setting up a rotation. Someone will check on you every day until this is over. From Austin's own godmother, I'm removing him from my will effective immediately. The social media unfriending began like dominoes. Austin's carefully curated image as a successful financial advisor crumbled within hours. His LinkedIn connections dropped from 500 plus to 47. His Facebook friends abandoned him en masse. Sarah sent me screenshots of Austin's firm's announcement. Effective immediately, Austin Chapman is no longer employed by Hartwell Financial Services. But the most surprising response came from Austin's ex-wife, Patricia, who'd divorced him 3 years ago. "Megan, I'm so sorry," her message read. "He did something similar to me during our divorce. Hid assets, forged my signature on tax documents. I should have warned you, but I thought he'd never do it to his own mother. I'm willing to testify if needed." The family rallied in ways I hadn't expected. Tom organized a meal train. Sarah started a legal fund, though I didn't need it. Dorothy's husband, a contractor, offered to change all my locks for free. "We failed you," Dorothy said when she stopped by that evening. "We let Austin isolate you. We should have been checking in, should have noticed something was wrong." "You couldn't have known," I said. "But we should have been around enough to see it. Harold was right to worry about you being alone. We just never imagined the threat would come from Austin." Monday morning, Harold and I met with my financial advisor at Chapco Industries' main office. It was time to fully unveil what I'd built in the shadows of my grief. "Mrs. Chapman," my CFO Jennifer said, spreading out the portfolios, "your current net worth, including all assets, is approximately $8.3 million. Harold whistled low. "Megan, you're worth more than most of the family combined." "The car wash empire was just the beginning," I explained. "I reinvested the profits into real estate, then commercial properties. I own the building where Austin's former firm, leases their office space." Harold laughed, a sharp bark of delight. "He was literally paying you rent without knowing it?" $80,000 a year, I confirmed. "I incorporated everything under Chapco Industries with a law firm as the registered agent. My name appears nowhere on the public records." "Why keep it secret?" Jennifer asked. "My husband always said money changes how people see you. After he died, I wanted to know who would still visit me if they thought I had nothing. Austin failed that test spectacularly." The irony was perfect. Austin had spent years cultivating an image of success while secretly drowning in debt. Meanwhile, I'd been quietly building an empire while maintaining the image of a modest widow. "There's more," I said, pulling out another folder. "6 months ago, I hired a private investigator to look into Austin's finances. I knew something was wrong. Mothers always know. But I wanted to give him the chance to come to me, to ask for help." "Instead, he tried to rob you," Harold said. "Yes, and that's what makes this unforgivable. Not the betrayal, not even the theft. It's that he looked at his mother and saw nothing but a mark, an easy target, a problem to be solved." Jennifer pulled up the latest reports. "The Westfield location alone nets $400,000 annually. You've built something remarkable, Mrs. Chapman." "I built it for Austin," I admitted. "I thought someday I'd surprise him, tell him he'd never have to worry about money. But he couldn't wait. He couldn't even ask." "What will you do with it now?" Harold asked. "Good things," I said. "Charitable things. Everything Austin will never touch." The courtroom was packed for Austin's arraignment. I sat in the front row with Harold, watching my son shuffle in, wearing orange jail clothes and shackles. He'd aged 10 years in 3 days. "The people versus Austin Chapman and Monica Rivera," the bailiff announced. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Dana Chen, laid out the charges. Count 1, fraud in the first degree. Count 2, forgery. Count 3, conspiracy to commit elder abuse. Count 4, attempted grand larceny. Count 5, identity theft. Austin's public defender, looking overwhelmed, entered not guilty pleas for both defendants. "Your Honor," Dana Chen continued, "given the severity of the crimes and the evidence including video recordings of the defendants planning further crimes against Mrs. Chapman, the state requests bail be set at $1 million for Mr. Chapman and $500,000 for Ms. Rivera." Austin's lawyer protested weakly, but the judge had reviewed the evidence. "Mr. Chapman," the judge said sternly, "you systematically planned to rob your own mother, forge documents, and by your own recorded admission, considered having her declared incompetent to steal more. Bail is set at $1 million. Austin couldn't even look at me. Monica's situation was equally grim. Ms. Rivera, you used your position as a notary, expired or not, to facilitate elder abuse. Bail is set at $500,000. Additionally, I'm ordering both defendants to have no contact with Mrs. Chapman. Neither could make bail. They'd remain in jail until trial. Outside the courthouse, reporters had gathered. Rebecca had warned me this might happen. Elder abuse cases this dramatic rarely stayed quiet. Mrs. Chapman, how does it feel to see your son in chains? I stopped, considered, then spoke clearly. It feels like justice. Elder abuse is a crime, whether the perpetrator is a stranger or your own child, maybe especially when it's your own child. Will you ever forgive him? Forgiveness isn't the issue. Safety is. My son viewed me as prey. That's not something you forgive. It's something you protect yourself from. 6 weeks later, Austin's world had completely collapsed. I received updates through Harold, who monitored the legal proceedings with professional interest. He's lost everything, Harold reported over coffee. The financial board revoked his licenses permanently. He can never work in finance again. What about his assets? The condo was foreclosed on last week. His car was repossessed. The court froze what little remained in his accounts for restitution. Austin had gone from a penthouse apartment to a jail cell, from designer suits to orange jumpsuits, from financial advisor to convicted felon. The gambling debts to Marcus Volkov remained unpaid. Harold had heard through legal channels that Marcus had written them off, but not forgiven them. Austin will be looking over his shoulder for the rest of his life, Harold said. Patricia, Austin's ex-wife, had testified about his pattern of deception during their marriage. He forged my signature on our tax returns to hide income, she told the court. He's been a con artist for years. His mother was just his biggest score. The trial date was set for 3 months out, but Austin's lawyer was already floating plea deals. They know they can't win, Dana Chen told me. The evidence is overwhelming. He'll take a deal eventually. What kind of deal? 5 years, with possibility of parole in 3, full restitution, lifetime restraining order. It wasn't enough for what he'd tried to do, but it was something. I'd received 1 letter from Austin in jail, forwarded through Harold. I didn't open it. Whatever he had to say, I wasn't ready to hear. Maybe I never would be. The son I'd raised was gone. In his place was a stranger who'd looked at his mother and seen only dollar signs. Monica Rivera's fall was swift and merciless. Unlike Austin, she had no family support, no safety net, and no sympathy from anyone. She took the plea deal, Dana Chen informed me. 2 years, credit for time served, followed by immediate deportation. Deportation? Her work visa expired 3 years ago. She's been here illegally, working under the table at various notary services. The forgery case just exposed everything. During her sentencing, Monica had broken down completely. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Chapman," she'd sobbed from the defendant's table. "Austin promised me a new life. He said you were rich, that you'd never miss the money." "Did you ever think about what you were doing to an elderly woman?" the judge had asked. I thought, Austin said she was losing her mind anyway, that we were helping her. The judge's response was scathing. "You thought you were helping by making an elderly woman homeless? By stealing her life's biggest asset? Ms. Rivera, you're a predator who targeted a vulnerable senior. 2 years imprisonment, followed by deportation and a lifetime ban from entering the United States." Monica's notary license was permanently revoked in all 50 states. Her name was added to a federal database of elder abusers. Even after deportation, she'd never work in any position of trust again. The $200,000 Austin had promised her became evidence of conspiracy. She got nothing except a criminal record and a one-way ticket out of the country. "She's been assigned to kitchen duty in prison," Rebecca told me. "Apparently she's not handling incarceration well." I felt no sympathy. Monica had sat at my kitchen table, eaten my food, smiled to my face while planning to destroy me. She'd coached my son on how to forge my signature, suggested drugging me if I resisted. She was exactly where she belonged. Snow was falling on Westfield as I stood in the office of my flagship car wash, watching the steady stream of customers. 6 months had passed since the family reunion that changed everything. Austin had taken the plea deal. 5 years with possibility of parole in 3, full restitution of $1.8 million, and a lifetime restraining order. Of course, he had no money for restitution, so the court ordered wage garnishment for life once he was released. "Mrs. Chapman," Jennifer said, entering with a stack of papers, "the Scholarship Foundation paperwork is ready for your signature." The Harold Chapman Memorial Scholarship would provide full college funding for students who'd aged out of foster care, kids who, unlike Austin, never had anyone to sacrifice for them. "Also," Jennifer added, "this came for you." Another letter from Austin, forwarded through the prison system. The 5th one. I added it to the unopened stack in my desk drawer. Sarah visited weekly now, bringing her children. "They need to know their great aunt," she said. "They need to see what strength looks like." The house felt different now, not empty, but purposeful. I'd converted Austin's old room into an office for the foundation. His trophies and certificates were gone, donated or destroyed. Only one photo remained. Austin at age 5, before he learned to see people as opportunities. Dorothy had asked me once if I regretted going public with Austin's crimes. "No," I'd answered immediately. He counted on my silence, my shame, my maternal instinct to protect him even as he destroyed me. Going public was the only way to stop him. The truth was harder. I mourned the son I thought I had, the boy who'd written me Mother's Day cards saying I was his hero. But that boy had been gone long before he handed me that $15,000 check. Rebecca stopped by that afternoon with an update. Marcus Volkov was arrested last week on RICO charges. Austin's gambling debts to him are now part of a federal investigation. Will Austin have to testify? Probably. From prison. He'll be looking over his shoulder for a very long time. I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity, just nothing. The son I'd raised was dead to me. What remained was a cautionary tale about greed, betrayal, and the price of underestimating a mother's resolve. On a quiet Thursday evening, exactly 1 year after Austin had handed me that check, I finally opened his letters. All 6 of them, in order. The first was angry, blaming me for ruining his life. The second was desperate, begging for money for protection in prison. The third was manipulative, trying to guilt me with memories of his childhood. But the 6th letter was different. "Mom, I'm writing this after 367 days in prison. I've had a lot of time to think, too much time. I know you'll never forgive me, and you shouldn't. What I did was unforgivable. I looked at the woman who gave me life and saw only a bank account. I planned to put you in a home and steal everything Dad left you. I was going to have you declared incompetent if you fought back. I'm in therapy here, gambling addiction counseling, and something called moral recognition therapy. Fancy words for learning to not be a sociopath. The therapist asked me when I stopped seeing you as my mother and started seeing you as a mark. I couldn't answer because I don't remember. Monica turned state's evidence against me. She testified about things I said, plans I made. Hearing it in court, hearing strangers gasp at what I'd done to you, it was the first time I felt shame. Real shame. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for money. I'm not even asking you to write back. I just wanted you to know that I understand now what I threw away. Not the inheritance or the family support. I threw away the only person who ever loved me unconditionally. Your son, who doesn't deserve to be, Austin. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back in its envelope. Then I fed all 6 letters into the shredder and watched them become confetti. That night I sat in Harold's old chair with a cup of tea, looking at our wedding photo. We'd been so young, so certain that love and hard work would be enough to build a good life. We'd been right, mostly. "What would you think of all this?" I asked his photograph. "Your son, a convicted felon? Your wife, owner of a secret empire? The family torn apart?" But I knew what Harold would say. "You protected yourself, Meg. That's all anyone can ask." The truth was more complex. Yes, I'd protected myself, but I'd also discovered something profound. I was never the weak old woman Austin thought I was. Age hadn't diminished me. It had refined me, like fire refines gold. Every year of experience, every loss survived, every challenge overcome, had prepared me for this moment. Austin had seen my gray hair and assumed frailty. He'd seen my quiet nature and assumed passivity. He'd seen my love and assumed weakness. His greatest mistake wasn't underestimating my wealth. It was underestimating my worth. I thought about the scholarship recipients who would start college next fall, kids who'd never had anyone to depend on. I thought about the elder abuse hotline I was funding, the legal aid program for seniors, the investigative unit specializing in family financial crimes. Austin's betrayal had become the catalyst for something greater than both of us. Love isn't blind. It sees everything and chooses to love anyway. But love also has limits. It has boundaries. It has the right to protect itself when that love is weaponized against it. I loved my son. I would probably always love the boy he was, the man he could have been. But I would never again love him more than I loved myself. That wasn't coldness. That was wisdom. Tomorrow, I would meet with 3 foster kids who'd received the scholarship. I would tell them about hard work and perseverance. I wouldn't tell them about Austin. Some stories are meant to be shared. Others are meant to be survived. 2 years and 3 months after his arrest, I received a call from an unknown number. "Mrs. Chapman, this is Tom Bradley from Sparkle and Shine Westfield. We have a new employee who's asking to speak with you. Says his name is Austin Chapman." I sat down slowly. Austin had been released early for good behavior and immediately gotten a job at my car wash, though he couldn't have known I owned it. Did he say why? He said he needs to apologize. Should I send him away? I thought for a long moment. No, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I found Austin in the employee break room wearing the blue Sparkle and Shine uniform, his hands red and cracked from the washing chemicals. Prison had aged him 20 years. His expensive haircut was replaced by a buzz cut. His designer physique had melted into thin shoulders and a slight stoop. He looked up when I entered, and for a moment I saw the boy who used to wait for me at the school gate. "Hello, Austin." "Mom," his voice cracked. "I didn't know you owned this place. I needed a job. Nobody else would hire me." "I know." "You know?" "Tom called me the day you applied. I told him to hire you." Austin's face crumbled. "Why?" "Because everyone deserves the chance to earn an honest living. Even you." We sat in silence for a moment. Outside, cars moved through the wash tunnel, emerging clean and shining. "I work 60 hours a week," Austin said quietly. "Minimum wage plus tips. I live in a studio apartment above the laundromat. Half my paycheck goes to restitution. The other half barely covers rent and ramen noodles." "That's more than you left me with." He flinched. "I know. I think about that every day. Every car I wash, I think about how I tried to wash you out of your own life. And I'm sorry. Not the kind of sorry that wants something. The kind of sorry that knows it can never be enough." I stood to leave. "You can keep the job. Tom says you're a hard worker." "Mom, wait. I'm not your mom anymore, Austin. I'm your employer, nothing more." "Before you go," Austin said, his voice barely above a whisper, "can I show you something?" He pulled out a worn notebook from his backpack. Inside were pages of calculations, every penny of his debt to me, interest calculated daily. "At my current rate, I'll have paid you back in 43 years. I'll be 85. He laughed bitterly. "I'll probably die washing cars, still owing you money." "Good." He nodded, accepting the harshness. "I also go to GA meetings, Gamblers Anonymous, every Tuesday and Friday. Been clean for 847 days. That's for you, not for me." "I know, but I wanted you to know." He hesitated, then pulled out a folded paper. "I also volunteer at the senior center on Sundays, reading to residents, helping with their finances, making sure nobody takes advantage of them." I looked at the volunteer certificate. It was real. "Austin, what do you want from me?" "Nothing," he said quickly. "I mean it. I know I have no right to ask for anything. I wanted you to see that I'm trying to become someone who wouldn't do what I did." I sat back down, studying the man my son had become. Not the entitled financial advisor in designer suits, but a humbled worker with calloused hands and genuine remorse. 2 years. I said finally. What? You work here for 2 years. No complaints, no shortcuts, no schemes. You attend every GA meeting. You continue volunteering. You pay your restitution without missing a payment. After 2 years, I'll meet you for coffee. Just coffee. We'll see who you've become. Austin's eyes filled with tears. That's more than I deserve. Yes, it is. But Harold always believed in second chances. I'm doing this for him, not for you. I understand. And Austin, if you violate the restraining order, if you come to my house, if you try to contact me outside of this arrangement, you'll be arrested. The restraining order stands. I understand that too. I stood to leave, then turned back. Your father would have been ashamed of what you did, but he also would have wanted you to have the chance to redeem yourself. Don't waste it. As I walked to my car, I saw Austin through the window, returning to work, spraying down a Mercedes with the focused attention of someone who finally understood the value of honest labor. 2 years. We'd see if the man could become worthy of the mother he'd tried to destroy. Every parent's love has limits, not because love is weak, but because love must sometimes protect itself to survive. Austin learned that forgiveness isn't a right. It's a gift that must be earned through genuine change and consistent action. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to set boundaries, even with family, especially with family. Subscribe to hear more stories about resilience, justice, and the complicated truth that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone you love is to let them face the consequences of their choices. And remember, being old doesn't mean being weak. Being quiet doesn't mean being powerless. And being a mother doesn't mean being a victim. Sometimes the greatest act of love is saying enough.